An open letter to the P-leading rejects of Otter Creek. Your motion to pretend deadlines don't apply to dumb people. Well, dear Michelle and John, you've done it. You submitted what might be the most unintentionally hilarious legal document since sovereign citizens started quoting maritime law in traffic court. Let's not pretend and waste pleasantries. You defaulted. The clerk entered it. You knew it. The deadline came and went. And your happy ass didn't answer. You didn't show up, and now, in the proud tradition of bad litigants everywhere, you cobbled together a last-minute sob story and slapped the wrong rule on top like it's a golden ticket. Well, it's not. It's a duct tape on a dumpster fire, and you lit the match. You don't have attorneys anymore, but there's a reason for that. Your filings claim this lawsuit is to fill YouTube stories using me as a character? Well, thank you for the confirmation and for entering that narrative into the record, dumbass. The plaintiff argued in exhaustive detail in 57 pages you should have read by now. You've had plenty of time. That you're part of an ecosystem of manufactured drama, harassment, defamatory content, and now you both provided written affidavits echoing that same thing. Outstanding. You just validated half of the complaint's central allegations. Your former lawyer, Bubbles, already told the court in no uncertain terms that you fired him. Why? Because apparently even Bubbles, who is allergic to rules, allergic to appearances, and allergic to court dates, realized he couldn't keep propping up the dumpster fire without becoming a permanent fixture on Judge Belitho's sanction calendar. According to the other case, you discharged him. You pushed away the only person barely willing to pretend to represent you in public. And it wasn't subtle. It wasn't cordial. You tossed him like an expired mayonnaise, and now you're showing up pro se, waving around your P-lead papers like you're still entitled to court leniency. And now you expect the court to hold your pretty little hand because you forgot to have a calendar and had too many distractions running your knockoff hate group on Facebook? No. This is not the judge's problem. It's the plaintiff's problem. This is you reaping the full harvest of your own sabotage. Request time to P-lead. Let's just stop there. Not only did you invent a new spelling for request, but you birthed a whole new form of legal advocacy. P-leading. What is that? What even is that? A typo? A cry for help? An homage to the sound you make when you realize the default's been entered and you have no actual defenses? Instead, you gave the court a rambling pity parade about Ohio state court cases, YouTube trauma, and of course, your inability to function as adults when served with legal documents. Here's a random thought. If you can't spell the relief you're begging for, you probably shouldn't get it. But spelling aside, and that's being generous, let's talk content, because buried under all your teardrops and toddler excuses is a steaming pile of procedural sewage. You do what all lazy, cornered grifters do. You start flinging random life events at the court like it's your Facebook wall. And the only people that are listening and give a shit are a couple of jacked up tooth marble gargling YouTubers that are being sued right alongside you. Michelle, you drag in your daughter, your indigenous, and your estate court case that isn't part of this record. John, you rattle off Ohio contempt orders in your caregiving responsibilities like you're auditioning for a Lifetime original movie. But none of that excuses what this actually is. A desperate ploy to undo the consequences you earned through inaction and incompetence. Let's be clear, you weren't confused, you weren't ambushed, you weren't tricked by some complex procedural trap. You got served and didn't do shit. Then after default was entered, you suddenly discovered your inner legal scholar and asked the court to hit pause on everything until an amended complaint arrives. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is wondering if adulting is a concept that only applies to people with calendars and functioning frontal lobes. Well, let's not pretend this is a procedural misstep. No. This calculated neglect, now dressed up in little crocodile tears loosely stapled together with unearned victimhood. You claim you lost track of time. Well, that's not an excuse. That's an insult to every other defendant in the system who managed to answer without a personalized sob story and a Word doc of grievances. More on This Isn't YouTube. You don't get to reshoot the scene. Let's not overlook the gall it takes to accuse the plaintiff of creating YouTube stories using you as a character. You did this when you defamed Jeremy. And while your filings read like a rejected true crime script, you don't get to default on a federal complaint and then waltz in with a conspiracy monologue about content monetization as if you're cracked into the Da Vinci Code. You're not whistleblowers. You're not victims. You're just people who don't follow the rules and now want a free pass yet again. You're not characters, you're cautionary tales. You're the real-life embodiment of what happens when incompetence meets arrogance and decides to file a motion at 11:59 p.m. on the last train to Irrelevantville. This court isn't your audience. It's not your live stream. You don't get to monologue through federal deadlines like they're commercial breaks, and yet here you are typing out this tragic fan fiction like the judge is going to toss out the federal rules because you had a bad week and a Wi-Fi connection. These motions aren't motions. They're grievance manifestos. You reference protective orders from other states, other cases in other jurisdictions, and wildly unrelated personal hardship, none of which explain your failure to timely answer this complaint in this court under this case number. You do not understand procedure, deadlines, jurisdiction, or the concept of consequences. You have single-handedly turned pro se into a punchline, and you're too busy crying about YouTube to notice that the court clock doesn't run on your trauma timeline. This isn't your personal pity page. This isn't your personal Facebook page. This is federal litigation, and you are defaulted rightfully, gloriously, permanently if justice has even half the spine you clearly lack. Again, let's discuss your complete disregard of relevance. You even reference Doc 117 as if it supports your delay. What in the holy hell? There are not even that many filings in this case, dumbass. Doc 117, am I missing something? Unless you're a time traveler or high on your own poop soup, there is no Doc 117. You are literally asking the court to give you time to respond to a document that doesn't exist. That's not a legal argument. That's a court-sanctioned hallucination. While we're at it, let's give a slow clap for your inspired legal analysis. Responding to the existing complaint would seem pointless since a new one is to be filed. Oh, really? So now you get to decide what's pointless in a federal lawsuit. Let me know where the federal rule says that defendants may ignore complaints if they feel a sequel is coming. This isn't a Marvel movie, moron. You don't get to set out the original story because you're holding out for the director's cut. You want 21 more days? You should have used the first 21. Instead, you spent them doing what you always do, creating a victim, blaming everybody else, and hoping no one notices you're as useless as a courtroom as you are raising any living creature. The court prints your P-leading and frames it not as a legal filing, but as a reminder of what happens when you confuse your internet soap opera with the federal judge's docket. So when the order denying your motion drops, and it will, don't blame YouTube. Don't blame Jeremy. Don't blame your 5-year-old. Look in the mirror. That's the only party that filed late, fired counsel, and then showed their happy ass up with nothing but a victim complex and a list of irrelevant sob stories. And sincerely, Shizzy Wiznut, not impressed, not remotely sympathetic, buckling up my helmet for a short bus ride to watch this shit show unfold. Thank you so very much.
It is about time.